Madame, kindly amend your testimony as discussed. Bien sûr. It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of Rigor Mortis. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight. Okay. Waxwork hat. Enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold of the head in the cemetery just for the interment. It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of Rigor Mortis.
Hold it!
Rigor Mortis being the phenomenon you describe, whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death. I think you said that it starts at the jaw about 3 hours post-death. Is that right? Oui, c'est ça. Of course, the exact duration depends a little on the season. I didn't realize the waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject. No, that is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine. Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit to my ignorance about forensic science. I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you like. I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them. Oh dear, I'll do my very best. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
Hold it!
You say that dawn was approaching. What was the time of the day then, approximately? Well, I could not say, but when I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light was becoming visible. The execution took place on 17th June, which has the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been at around 4:40 in the morning. That really is early. The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work on a half hour. It was necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, so I had to hurry. Is it me, or does Mr. Sholmes seem to be taking shape more quickly now too? You certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madame. I wonder, is what she just said particularly significant? Natürlich. Madame, those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture and the early sunrise. Could you include them in your testimony? I believe they may be significant. Of course, if you would like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruhodo. It is intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it? That's not quite what I meant by significant. Kindly amend your formal testimony then, madame. With pleasure, my lord. I hurried to finish my work in the half hour before sunrise. Then I left as soon as the corpse was interred. It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of Rigor Mortis. The professor. At midnight. Very long time because of Rigor Mortis. Finished my work in the half hour before sunrise.
Hold it!
Did you have reason to believe you might be discovered once the sun came up or something? I had paid the gravedigger money to keep my little secret, of course. But with the morning light, I knew that the warden from the prison would commence his patrol of the area. Couldn't you just have paid off the warden too then? I had already paid the gravedigger, as I said. You cannot buy the silence of everyone, or the secret is no longer a secret, huh? The sunrise was at 4:40 AM that day, which means that it would have been around 4 when you began your sculpting work. Oui, that must be correct. That would be when the gravedigger gave me the signal to come out of hiding. So, that's all I have to go on. What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo? For some reason, Dr. Scythe went along with Rebel's plan. Now, if that's really true, then the professor is the only other thing we know of that links the pair of them. so I feel sure that waxwork must be a clue to this mystery somehow. In that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors are sure to revert their leanings and the trial will be over. I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord Van Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. Yes, as do I. After all, he has a profound connection to the professor as well. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance to Spell's family principles. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. Was heißt interment? Interment. Beerdigung, okay. It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of Rigor Mortis. Report of the mass murder. Pseudonym the Professor. Das vielleicht darauf? Ich weiß es nicht. Ich speichere mal.
Objection!
Tatsächlich. Madame to Spells. I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows. Ach so, ja. Wenn es 4 Uhr morgens war und er um Mitternacht gehängt wurde, dann war die Totenstarre ja schon da, weil es nach 3 Stunden war. And is that a problem? I believe it is, because your testimony and a particular detail in the report completely contradict one another. Quoi? Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? According to her testimony, Madame Tuspel was creating a wax impression just before dawn, and at that time, Rigor Mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, Madame? You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is the first thing, a sign of Rigor Mortis, 2 to 3 hours after death. But the man's chin was limp, so he cannot have been dead for a long time. But on the other hand, if you look at Dr. Seise's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th June. No! The professor indeed died at midnight that day. Then by the time you were sculpting his face, Rigor Mortis would already have set in. Oui, yes, you are right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff. In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection!
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible! Order! Order! Counsel, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Theis, but you also implicate members of staff at Barclay Prison where the execution took place. By heck! Extraordinary! Not in my day!
Objection!
My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? The professor died that night. Without question. He did. Of course he did. I moved the man's limp jaw with my own hands. There was no... Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die at... Are you insane? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. Theis, the professor, and that one other person of interest. I have evidence that will explain exactly what I'm suggesting happens at night. Counsel, present the evidence at once. The evidence that allegedly explains what really happened on the night of the professor's execution. Ist die Szene gestellt? Ist die Szene gestellt, ist die Frage. Und hat Assman damit was zu tun? Bla bla. Puh, ich speichere mal ganz kurz.
Take that!
What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting it was a corpse coming back from the dead now? Well, if this article is to be believed, yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave and was killed again.
Objection!
Don't be a fool, that's simply a rumor, published by the gutter press. Can you be certain of that? Are you serious? The point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened. My word, yes indeed. Mais oui, the young man who stole into the cemetery at chance that night, by chance.
Objection!
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself, but obviously the man made it all up. And in any case, this was 10 years ago now. There would surely be no hope of finding them.
Objection!
Him. On the contrary, my lord, we all know this witness well. What? Are you suggesting, counsel, that you've identified the person in question? That you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place? Yes, my lord. In fact, you could say that he's right here, before my very eyes. You will substantiate your latest claim now then, counsel. Who is the alleged witness of the staggering scene from the cemetery 10 years ago? Enoch Dweber.
Take that!
The man in question is Mr. Enoch Dweber. Dweber. The previous witness, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors and Madame Tussauds Museum of Waxwork, recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. The condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Dweber. Order, order, order! Surely not, counsel. Dweber was there, in Lowgate Cemetery. What is all this talk about, Mr. Dweber? Is the name significant? Of course, Madame Tussauds doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, Madame. To your situation as well, in fact. What situation? The theft of the professor waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man. No! But that would mean... Madame Tussauds. It would appear you know the name, Enoch Dweber. Oui, yes, I know it. But from long ago, in the past. What? Oh my. Good gracious! Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know. Yes, of course. Okay. The story of the young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from in one newspaper. Das, was wir haben, oder nicht? The Daily Circus. It is a paper from which comes the articles I have already shown the court. You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? Goodness me! Yes, here it is. The university student to experience this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Drebber, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter. When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit for my house of horrors, whether it was the truth or not. I see. So you went to meet Mr. Drebber and in order to sculpt the waxwork of the man, did you? Exactement. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork. And since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery. Okay. So it went in order to sculpt the waxwork of the man. Okay. Okay. So, 10 years ago, a young man appeared to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death, re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals the waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Quistic Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asman, but that same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated Dr. Thies would have noticed immediately. And yet, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court has seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying? Dr. Thies put her name to a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who was still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Okay, also lebt der Professor scheinbar noch. Was dann wiederum vielleicht erklären könnte, warum Professor Mikotoba besorgt um seine Tochter war. Wenn der noch lebt. Und der Hund von Baskerville, wenn er den noch gefunden hat. Vielleicht ist der Professor auch der Selden, der im Gefängnis sitzt. Der wurde ja exekutiert. Der wurde ja wirklich exekutiert. Aber der Hund von Baskerville, das Halsband, das war ja seine Waffe. Und wenn er noch lebt, kann ich verstehen, dass sich Professor Mikotoba Sorgen macht. Und Thies hat das dann verheimlicht. Quasi. Warum auch immer. Und hat angegeben, dass da Dr. Dings drin war. Wie heißt er? Assman, der kein Doktor war. Aber, ja. Also, dass Assman der Tote war und nicht einfach die Figur von dem Professor da lag. Die Frage ist sie dann zu so einem Extent gegangen, zu so einem Ausmaß gegangen, dass sie vielleicht selber einen Mord begangen hat, um zu verheimlichen, dass die Professorstatue da gelandet ist? Es ist noch etwas im Unklaren. Es ist noch viel im Unklaren. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as a body double. Ah! My lord. This court must summon Dr. Seiss to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly who the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. How? But according to the missive I received this morning to the prosecutor's office, Dr. Seiss is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? Lord Strongheart hat das verboten, ja. She told us to herself, didn't she? Lord Van Zieks, don't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart. The Pandora's box you were warned about is a professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. Something happened in the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago. And surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped. But Lord Van Zieks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office.
Objection!
Was ist denn Missive? Sendschreiben, schreiben, okay. The assigned prosecutor has the final say on policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. Yes. Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Seiss both take the stand together. Order, order, order. Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect, addressed to Dr. Seiss of the Forensic Investigation Team. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then, Enoch Drebber and Dr. Seiss. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could never have been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away, I can feel it. The truth behind all of this is about to come up. Damn.